Sewing on cards and scrapbook pages is one of the hottest techniques around, and one of the best sewing machines for the job is the Janome Sew Mini. You may have purchased one of these machines and found it easy to use, but for those of you whose machine still looks like this, I'm going to help you break your fear of sewing, and in the next 15 to 20 minutes, you'll be sewing on your projects too. So let's begin with step 1, taking it out of the box. Now that the sewing machine is out of the box, let me show you everything that's included. Of course, you get the Janome Sew Mini sewing machine. This black piece is the power supply. This is the pedal, and the pedal is the thing that you step on and it makes the sewing machine go. You also get 2 bobbins, and you can purchase extra bobbins to make extra colors, but 2 is plenty to get you started. You get a needle threader to make threading the needle easier. You also get a spare needle in case you break one or it gets dull. You get a warranty card that you just fill out and send back, and then you also get an instruction booklet. Now the only additional items that you're going to need is thread. So I suggest that you pick up thread in neutral shades such as white, cream, brown, black, colors that will go with any cards that you're making. And then maybe get a few of your favorite bright colors to complement your favorite pattern papers and cardstocks that you have. Now next I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to set up the machine. The first thing you need to do is plug it in and get it ready to go. So you're going to take your power supply, and you'll see on the side where the wheel is, you're going to see 2 holes. Now the one that's black is the one that the power supply goes into, and then this end gets plugged into your wall. Then you have a hole up here, and that's your pedal hole. You're going to attach your pedal into there, and then this pedal is going to be put on the floor underneath your workspace, and you're going to step on it to make the machine go. Now in the back here, you've got the part where the thread goes. Just pop that forward like that, and you'll be ready to put your spool of thread on. And then you'll also notice that there might be a piece of paper just protecting your presser foot. So right here is the little thing that raises up the presser foot. You're just going to lift that up, and you're going to pull the paper out from underneath. And the presser foot is only going to be put down when you're actually sewing. Otherwise, you can leave that up all the time. Okay, so now we're going to change the camera angles because I'm going to show you how to thread the bobbin, first to wind the bobbin, and then how to thread the machine. So stay tuned for that coming up next. What you're looking at here is the top of the Janome Sew Mini. And what we're going to do is we're going to wind a bobbin first. That's the first step in threading the machine. You're going to need to make a bobbin. And you can either make a bobbin in the same color as the thread that you're using, or you can use a complementary color, so on one side it will be one color and on the other side it will be a different color. Now I'm going to start by using red thread, even though that's not the color I'm going to be using when I show you how to sew. I'm using red here so that you can clearly see the threading path up against the white machine. Now to begin, when you first open the machine, this is your spool holder, and that was like that when you opened the machine. You want to press that forward to open that up. And then your thread is going to come off the spool clockwise. Can you see that? It's coming off the spool clockwise. And then you're going to pop that onto the spool holder. Now next, you're going to use the thread guide, and that's this piece right here. You're going to bring the thread behind the thread guide and then up through the slit like that, and then you're going to go around the disc. So you can see it goes from the back of the machine up through this slit and then around this disc. Then the next step is to get a bobbin, one of the empty bobbins, and there's a little hole in the bobbin. You're going to pull the thread through that little hole, and then pop the bobbin onto the bobbin winder spindle like that. Takes a little bit of pressure, and that's okay if it takes some pressure. and then push it to the right up against the bobbin stopper here. Then, using your pedal, you're going to start to wind the bobbin a little bit, and you're going to hold the thread up tight like that, and then go ahead and start winding. Now, once you've wound a little bit of thread onto your bobbin, you can take a pair of scissors and just cut away that excess thread. You won't be needing that. Then you can finish winding the bobbin. Now, when the bobbin is completely full, it will stop turning, and that's how you'll know it's full. But because I'm using red, and I may not want to use a ton of red on a ton of cards, I'm just going to wind the bobbin maybe a third of the way. That'll be enough to get through quite a few cards, but then if I want to unwind it and change the color, it won't take forever. So, here we go. And that's plenty of thread for the project that I'm going to do. So I'm going to just pop it back over to the left, pull it off, trim it, and that bobbin is ready to be placed in the machine, and the spool of thread is ready to be threaded through the machine. For the next step, we're going to insert the bobbin in the bobbin holder. And that's what you're looking at right here. This is the bobbin holder. We're going to remove the plate. And remember, in the beginning of this video, I told you that this machine came with two bobbins. It actually comes with three. So I'm going to pull out the one that was actually down here in the machine. That's where you'll find your third empty bobbin. Now, you want to make sure that your bobbin is positioned so that the thread is coming off on this side, just like that. And then you're going to drop the bobbin into the bobbin holder, and we're going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see that. I'm just going to place the bobbin in there. And now, if you see I'm using a paper piercer as a pointer, there's a little notch right here. You see that little notch? What you're going to do with that is you're going to push your thread through there, through that little notch, and then pull it over. So now you've actually inserted the bobbin correctly, and now you can replace the plate on top, like that. You're looking at the Janome So Many sewing machine from the front view, and we're going to begin to thread the machine now. And remember, when using your spool of thread, you want the thread to be coming clockwise off of the spool, which means that the thread is coming over the top of the spool. And then you're going to put it onto the spool threader, the spool holder, right there on the back of the machine. And then the next step is you're going to slip the thread under the thread guide, and that goes right under there like that. You see that? You're not going to use this slit at all for anything. It just goes right under. Okay. And now we're going to go close up here. And the next step is we're going to go around this guide plate. Now this is your guide plate here, and this is your take-up lever. Now if you don't see your take-up lever, all you have to do is turn the wheel on the side until it pops up, and just pop it right up. So you're going to go around the right side of the guide plate, and then come up the left side of the guide plate, and then you're going to thread through the loop of the take-up lever. There you go, like that. Now you can tuck that thread back into that little slot there, and now we're going to work on the needle area. Now you're looking at a side view of the presser foot area and the needle bar thread guide. So you're going to take that thread and you want to slip it through the needle bar thread guide like that, and then you're going to thread the needle like that. Now that your needle is threaded, we're going to bring up the bobbin thread. The final step in threading the machine is to pull this bobbin thread down here through this hole here in the machine. And the way you do that is you're going to use the thread from your needle to make a loop, and then it'll pull right up. There's a wheel on the side of your machine, and all you want to do is turn the wheel toward you, one full turn. And then when you do that, then you can pull on your needle thread and watch it make a loop. I'm going to place the machine back so you can see the loop come right up. See that loop? Came right up. And now you can just take something and you can just pull it right through, just like that. And now you've got the thread coming out of the right spot from underneath. And now you are ready to sew. Now that your machine is threaded, I'm going to show you how to choose your stitch and set your tension. As you can see, I've changed the thread color back to a lighter color so that you're going to be able to see it well when I start to sew on my cardstock, since my cardstock is a little bit darker and brighter. But before we get started, I wanted to show you that you have different options when it comes to stitching. You can either use a straight stitch or you can use a zigzag stitch. And in this case, I'm going to use stitch G. Stitch G is the perfect stitch length for when you have two pieces of paper that you want to bring together and they're a 1/4 inch apart. So for example, if your back piece of cardstock is 5.5 by 4 1/4, and then the piece that you lay on top of that is 5 1/4 by 4, this would be the perfect length stitch to go in between them and fill it in just perfectly. So I'm choosing zigzag stitch G. Now I wanted to tell you a little bit about the tension dial. This is the tension dial. And tension is when you have an even stitch look on the front and the back. That's where your tension is set perfectly. If the bobbin thread, the bottom thread, shows up on the top, then your tension is too tight and you need to lower the number. So you could take it from 4 to 3 and see if that helps, or from 3 to 2, see if that helps. Now if the needle thread shows on the bottom side of the fabric too much, then you want to turn the dial to a higher number, and that will tighten the tension. So if it's on 4 and it's just not looking right, try bringing it up to 5 and seeing if that makes a difference. Okay, so now let me show you what I do when it comes to cardstock. I'm going to sew 2 straight lines here, 2 zigzag lines just straight across. But I don't want to gunk up my needle, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my tape just down the center of my piece of patterned paper and attach it onto my cardstock. Like that. This way, the area that I'm going to sew here is not really attached, and that gunk, the glue, won't get caught up in the needle and down into the bobbin area. At this point, I've chosen stitch style G, and I have my tension set at 4. I'm going to show you how to sew a zigzag stitch in a straight line, and then I'm going to show you how to sew a zigzag stitch around the perimeter of a card, turning at the corners. Okay, now we're ready to sew our first straight stitches. We are going to use a zigzag stitch, but we're only going to stitch in a straight line. And what I've done here is I've pulled my bobbin thread and my needle thread out from behind my presser foot, and I've positioned my cardstock, and then I've lowered my presser foot using this lever. Let's see if you can see this lever. This is the presser foot lever back here. When you raise it up, the presser foot comes up. When you put it down, the presser foot goes down. I'll show you that again. Up and down. So, again, let's position that. I'm going to raise the presser foot up. Now, the way I'm deciding where I'm going to sew is there is actually a line right here between my red cardstock and my pattern paper. I'm going to line that line up directly in the center of the presser foot. And as long as I keep it right in the center like that, there we go. As long as I keep it right in the center, it's going to give me a nice straight stitch, and I'm not going to have to worry about it being all wobbly and going all over the place. So I'm not going to back stitch on this because this is a piece that's going to be layered on top of another piece of cardstock. So I don't need to lock the stitches, but in the next demonstration I will be locking the stitches, so I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so to begin, we're just going to go ahead and go straight down, keeping that line right in the center of the presser foot. And I'm stopping every once in a while just to make sure I'm lined up. It's okay, you can stop as much as you want. Okay. Make sure your needle is in the upright position before you raise the lever, and then you can pull that out and you can trim it with a pair of scissors. Now you can see I have a nice zigzag stitch going across, and it's very even because I used that line between the two pieces of paper and I matched it up with the line right in the center of the presser foot. Now, rather than locking this stitch, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip over my piece of cardstock and put a little piece of tape on there, and then just attach my thread to the back. And then you don't see any excess thread hanging, and you don't have to worry about locking the stitch on the end. Now this one I cut a little bit close, but that's all right. I could still add a little bit of thread, a little bit of tape there, and just tape down my excess threads. Now when I glue that piece onto my card, I don't have any extra stitches on the side, so it looks very, very clean, but it won't unravel because all of this will be glued down on top of another piece. Now I can do that on the other side too. I can stitch this one going down, and I'm just lining that up next to that stripe. Make sure I'm in far enough, and away we go. Again, you've got to raise your needle up before you pull. And you can pull on that. A little extra room there. And there's my stitched other side. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just trim off a little bit of the excess. And then I can either just use the tape that's already there to tape it down. And now when I place this piece on top of my other piece of cardstock, it looks very finished. Now for this next piece, I'm going to show you how to zigzag around the entire perimeter of this card. And you're not going to sew off the edge, so you're not going to be taping any threads behind. So what you're going to need to do is lock the stitch, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to start by positioning my card with the two pieces meeting right at the line of the presser foot, in the center of the presser foot, and I'm going to take a couple stitches. Then I'm going to use the back. This makes it go backwards, and I'm going to press this down and go back a couple stitches. And now I'm going to go around the entire perimeter. Now what I've done there is I've locked those first couple of stitches. So once I'm done sewing, when I cut the threads won't just unravel because they've been locked. Alright, we're going to get a better close-up view now for this next part. So now we have a close-up view, and I'm going to do a zigzag stitch almost to the very end, but I'm going to stop and I'm going to show you how to turn when doing your stitching. Okay, so now I'm going to take one more stitch, but I'm going to do it by hand using the wheel. And then I'm going to lift my presser foot. I'm going to turn the paper a quarter turn and drop the presser foot again. Now with that, that's going to give me a nice corner. Okay, I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to take one more stitch. And then with the needle still down, I'm going to turn it a quarter of a turn and position it again. Drop the presser foot. And here comes my last corner. Again, lifting my presser foot, turning a quarter turn, dropping the presser foot, oops, and continuing on. Now, one more stitch, and now I'm going to lock my stitches by, again, going backwards and going forwards again. And now I can raise my presser foot up. And I can cut my stitches away, my threads away, rather. Now you can see on my corners, I've just gone right around the corners and I'm finished. And you can get a pair of cutter bee scissors or something, sewing scissors, to get real close on those stitches. And now with my other piece, and you can see how when I lay that, let me press those back down onto the, we don't really need that much of the thread hanging. And you can see now when I place my cardstock on there, it gives it a nice finished look on the edges. And I've got sewing all around my perimeter. Sewing on cards makes them even more special by creating a warm homemade feel. And now you can see how easy it is to do. Feel free to post any sewing questions in our forum at stamptv.com. We'll do our best to help you add this wonderful technique to your paper crafting.